Thank you very much. It's great to be here today, taking part in this very timely discussion on native woodlands. And if I can take it from a few points mentioned this morning in the plenary session, such as lack of management in native woodland perhaps being a threat to native woodlands, and the Minister comment of long-term timber production potential. This presentation will aim to answer the question, can we grow quality timber in native woodlands as well as other services? And if so, can we square this within a conservation programme? As we know, Irish native woodland came to the verge of disappearance in the early 1900s. However, in more recent years, we've seen remaining native woodlands secured, and new native woodlands are now being created, primarily through the provision of the Native Woodland Scheme. In the picture, two recently established sites, both showing potential for growth of native species when planted on suitable sites, Southwest Kerry and Clare. The primary objective is biodiversity conservation and ecosystem services delivery. However, long term, timber production is envisaged to be in the mix of objectives. But is this a realistic expectation? One could be forgiven for thinking that perhaps we don't have potential for quality timber production in Ireland, looking at the average poor form of most of our mature native trees. However, a quick check of our historical record would show that vast quantities of quality hardwoods have been produced in Ireland over the century, mostly exported to the UK, Britain. And that the resulting poor form that we see today is by and large the result of long periods of unsustainable practice, selective removal without management or renewal. In fact, if we look hard for it, we can still find a glimpse of past quality, like this Class A oak found in a Kildare forest during a routine inventory. Also, we can take a look at the performance of a pole stage broadleaf planted, say 20 years ago, in Ireland, when planted on suitable sites and well managed. Suitable size and well managed. And what we find is reasonable level of quality and growth rates well in excess of expectation compared to other European countries. So where do we go from here? In the next few slides, I will look at the opportunity to manage our emerging native woodlands through continuous cover forestry. Continuous cover forestry is a management approach which encompasses many silvicultural systems that allows for the production of timber, quality timber, without loss of canopy cover, forest cover. In particular, we'll look with copies with standards, the shelterwood system, and pro-silva, irregular silviculture, more in detail. Copies with standards is a very ancient management system made of an understory managed through short rotation copies for small rod production, and an overstory, typically 25-50 trees, managed for larger dimension timber. In the picture is a copies with standard site I was involved with as a forester, one of my earlier projects as a forester, supported at the time by Woodlands of Ireland, that aimed for the production of rods from the understory and register seeds from the overstory pedunculate oak. The advantages of the system is a traditional system, offer a wide range of products, is a simple prescriptive management, has a rich spring flora associated, and offer good forest soil protection. On the negative side, it has a low percentage of sawlog timber, which is the most valuable part, and therefore needs local niche markets for rods, which are not always available. It can be very susceptible to deer browsing, and from a structural diversity point of view, it can offer quite a uniform understory. The shelterwood system is the traditional system across Europe for the production of volume of sawlog. The diagram here illustrates the process. Through a prolonged period of respacing and thinning, trees are brought into a uniform target size, at which stage harvesting commences over a period of time, and along with harvesting, an understory is regenerated, and as the trees are removed, a new cohort, a new uniform cohort, is then brought forward, and the cycle continues. The advantages of the system is a prescriptive management, relatively easy to implement, with large volume of sawlog harvested in a window of time at the end, typically 20 years, and offer reasonably good forest soil tree cover. On the negative side, and from a diversity and conservation point of view, can have a low structural diversity, with them stand in a uniform condition for most of the time. The regeneration can be expensive to manage, susceptible to deer browsing, and in general offer reduced opportunity for old growth. Also, from a cash flow point of view, most of the timber is harvested at the end of a rotation. Some of these rotations can be 200, 250 years. Looking in more detail now to the pro-silva irregular silviculture. This is a reasonable new approach to forest management, which is promoted. One of the main advocates of this system is Pro-Silva Europe, an umbrella organisation present in many European countries, including Ireland, made up of forestry practitioners, ecologists, forest owners. The Pro-Silva irregular silviculture management is supported by recent advancements in our understanding of forest ecosystem functioning. Key feature of the system are that is modeled around the concept of forest successional stages. It promotes individual quality trees to selective harvesting, selective felling. It promotes multi-species regular structures as a way to maximize productivity and ecosystem resilience, with harvesting patterns mimicking natural disturbance. In essence, it takes a whole forest ecosystem approach to the concept of forest management in an effort to integrate production, conservation, and social values. The advantages of the system offer a high level of structural diversity at the stand level, increased ecosystem resilience compared to other management systems, very high quality timber production potential, and also the potential to integrate at the stand level other products or services, ecosystem products and services. In the picture is a forest managed through irregular silviculture I visited in Belgium in 2016 as part of a Pro-Silva study tour, managed for high quality solar production, integrating a community firewood scheme for local residents, and also hunting and wild mushroom harvesting. Some of the disadvantages of this approach is that require regular inventory and monitoring. It requires skilled, trained practitioner, which are not always available, and require long-term vision planning. As mentioned, this management approach is based on the understanding that forests evolved through distinct natural succession stages, from an establishment stage to a pole stage to an understory reinitiation stage, and finally to a dynamic equilibrium stage, at which point harvest and disturbance drive productivity but also renewal and ecosystem stability. In the next few slides, I'll look more in detail of the management items at pole stage, understory reinitiation stage, and dynamic equilibrium. At pole stage, the focus of management under irregular silviculture is on selecting the quality element in the stand, the quality stems, through crown thinning. Very of interest is recent research on a particular type of crown thinning known as halo thinning. Classic thinning, classic silviculture would aim to partially remove competitors to the selected trees in an effort to draw the tree up to maximize stem length to the expense of some of its figure, with resulting very long maturity time. Halo thinning approach takes the opposite approach in some respects and assume the quality can be maintained, for example, through high pruning. All the competitors to the selected trees are removed, with resulting maturity to solo much quicker, with obvious implication for profitability. 2 trials across Europe, among many, a Belgian trial, 30-year trial, I visited as part of a Pro-Silva tour again, where researchers found that oak could be grown to 20 centimetres in 20 years, with a sustained year growth of 1 centimetre annually thereafter. This is well in excess of any expectation from classic literature. Closer to home, a trial in Wales, impressive Crumlin 80-year-old free growth trial, which I visited 2 weeks ago, where researchers have found that by applying the halo thinning, oak could be grown to 60 centimetres in 80 years, 40 years earlier than expected, 120 years. And the comments from the floor was that these figures were conservative. We could probably do better, and especially with other species in oak, the potential is even greater. There's a paper to be published on this coming in June in the scientific literature. Moving from, we also have a trial of free growth in Mayo in Charleston run by Teagasc. Moving from the pole stage into the understory reinitiation stage, at this point trees mature, start producing seeds, and from seeds, seedlings. What we see, provided that sufficient or a suitable irregular structure can be promoted at this stage, and this is the central point of the system, is irregularity, suitable irregular structure is provided, we see the emergence of patterns of regeneration, named the waiting room, small patches of regeneration throughout the forest. Observation shows that in this condition, seedlings can remain stored in these structures for quite some period of time, 5, even up to 10 years. And still retain plasticity once overhead light becomes available, like for example in the removal of a canopy tree, to release vigorous quality poles named sprinters. So irregular structure is important to secure regeneration, and the size of the gap provided will determine the success of the process, but also it's very important to secure productivity in the forest in a way of providing sustained yield through a conveyor belt effect, as well as underlining the overall ecosystem resilience. From functioning forest managed through irregular silviculture, what we see across the Atlantic Europe, a structure as depicted here in the picture and in the table. They are open structure with diffuse light and dominated by large, vigorous, healthy canopy trees making up the majority of the volume of the forest. Very interestingly, recent ecosystem research has revealed that large, dominant, healthy, vigorous trees, represented by large green circles in the diagram, control the development and the maintenance of the ectomycorrhizal fungal network on which the whole forest relies heavily for nutrient cycling, for pathogen and water control. So what we see here is that keeping large, vigorous, quality trees in positive growth is not only important for timber production, but is also essential for driving ecosystem resilience. So the focus of the manager here is, at this stage, is on shaping the various social classes into functional, non-functional ranges as presented in the table through harvesting. Once a structural equilibrium is achieved, the focus of the management is on removing volumes of trees, primarily from large solid trees, in this way allowing for the process of renewal and for the different social classes to be promoted from sprinters to pole stage, from pole stage to small trees and so on. Also, as a way to maximize diversity and provide the ecosystem legacy, a number of these large quality trees are typically retained into an old growth stage and allowed to mature and decay.
And 3 minutes.
As mentioned, the inventory is central to the execution of all the system. Up until recently, this has been considered one of the main weaknesses of the system, in the assumption that a complex irregular structure needs a complicated, expensive inventory. More recent investigation, including my own master thesis for last year, has revealed that indeed focusing on key parameters, using creative, innovative design and modern technology is possible to design and execute cost-effective inventory functional to this management system. Looking at the production roadmap, this is where we are now mostly in Ireland in terms of hardwood harvesting. We have a lively firewood market and most of our small diameter logs going into. Also we have craft materials established, and we're already seeing the experimentation with small diameter logs as an effort to add value. This is a project I was involved myself with Letterfrack Furniture College students, where we produced some craft material that was then displayed at Teagasc Token Hardwoods event in Mitchelstown in 2017. And more importantly, there's an ongoing cover-funded project partnering NUI, Galway, Teagasc and GMIT Letterfrack to research and explore more add value to small diameter hardwoods. However, we only be with the maturity of soil that the real potential value of timber production in native woodlands will be achieved, and there's no doubt it will take time before we get to that stage. However, we see already encouraging examples of the potential ahead. The refurbishment of Small Castle in Limerick with local native oak is now used as a venue for weddings. Larryfrack invested in facility, milling and kiln drying facility to produce their own hardwoods for students. Teagasc talking hardwoods events showcasing the application of portable sawmills and quality harvesting. Ultimately, that's where we need to go in County Wicklow. So in conclusion, to the initial question, can we grow quality timber within a conservation, let's say, programme in native woodlands? The initial answer from research and practice would be positive. There's no doubt that more research and practice will be needed in the coming years and decades. But for now, latest research and practice would indicate that active and adaptive management in native woodlands can lead to increased ecosystem services, increased resilience, deliver quality timber production, and ultimately contribute to sustainable rural development. Thank you.